start filming. So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, in the discussion of the possibility of relaunching the Love Boat 2.0, there is debate in terms of the age because the younger, and Jim is going to, here's Jim. He is going to maybe dispute this, but the younger kids that went and they had just graduated from high school, that experience and the return on the memories of it is going to be different than when you're 22, 23, and you're gonna graduate from college. So that's a very interesting thing. I think that's my guess is that had something to do with how it affected you versus other people. So all right, what campus? You said Gentan. Do you remember what group and bus?
Bus B, Group B, BM008.
Okay. You don't remember any of that?
No.
Okay, and how many students were at Gentan at the time, roughly?
750.
750 in 1992? There's 1,000 in 1991 when I went.
So there were 750 at Gentan and 250 at Ocean.
Okay.
So it's still 1,000.
Okay, and did you already know people there? Did you already know people there when you went?
Yes.
I figured. So a bunch of your friends planned to go together. You knew you were going.
So I went to Berkeley, so we had a very active Asian Greek
Right.
side, and one of our lead friends was going to be one of the counselors for Group B, and so we all kind of said, all right, this is the summer, we're going.
This is interesting for me and for Jim because we came from areas that did not have any Asians. I mean, very little Asians. So I always wonder what it was like for those of you from California. When you're going there with all your friends, isn't it harder to meet new people just hanging out with your friends?
No, because it's actually easier because the people were spread amongst A, B, and C groups, and also at Ocean. And then, we would go out at night and we would meet who's in their group and their friends, your roommates, and it just
Oh,
was
I
an
see.
easy icebreaker.
I see. Interesting. How many roommates did you have?
7. No, sorry. I had total of 6, so 5 roommates.
Oh my God, what a nightmare.
Actually, it wasn't because it was actually on purpose.
Oh.
Because our friend who was the counselor had told us when we were lining up, it's whoever you check in with, that's going to be who your roommates are. And for the guys, the early arrivals get stuck into the monastery. Poor AC, guys only, away from the girls. And we're like, nope. So we actually slept on my friend's floor for the first day and a half until our friend Steve actually said, okay, they're checking in for the guys in the main building. So then we actually used that time. 2 of the guys who were my roommates were actually my friends from LA, or one was my friend and then it was his cousin. And so we said, okay, if we get a 6-person room, which was a starting, small suites in the main building, we need to find 2 other guys. And so we kind of used that day and a half kind of scouting.
Who's cool? Who do we want to live with?
Exactly. And then there was a guy who was walking around who was from Seattle, and he also knew, our friend, and then we kind of just bumped into each other and we started talking, and he's like, okay, you guys seem pretty cool. You guys want to be roommates? And then that's...
So who were your roommates? Do you remember?
So Rich and Rob from Seattle. We still go to March.
Hold on.
Okay.
We'll talk about impact later, but just answer the questions and then I'll lead you through, okay?
Yes.
So who were your roommates?
So Rob Chang, we call him Bass. Rich Yu, we call him Piranha. Harrison Trong, called Papa Bear. And his cousin Richard Trong, and we called him, he was the angry drunk. So
Why do you have names for everybody? Who are you?
It's that we'll get to another. I had a couple different ones, so you had to earn a nickname. It's like a fraternity. So
All right. So what were some of your... Oh, I'm sorry. Did you visit relatives during the weekends?
So my grandparents, my grandfather passed away. My grandmother had already moved to the U.S. and my other grandparents, they had also moved to the U.S. But I had other distant relatives that I had never met before, and second cousins and things like that I did go out.
You did? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So then what were some of your more memorable moments, or if you had a favorite moment you want to talk about?
So there's the
Yeah.
professional ones that can be mentioned here, and there are other ones I can share with you off camera.
Okay.
So So, obviously the nightlife, going out. And back then, they actually tried to prevent you from going out. So you'd have to find a way out and crawl across the back, walls and things like that.
You did
And
that.
we did that. And so we'd always, pick a place and then spread the word, no text messages or emails. back
Right,
then.
right.
And then we would all meet up at, a beer garden or someplace for pre-drinks, and then we would go to whatever club.
Well, do you remember the names of the clubs?
So obviously, my favorite one was Kiss.
Me too.
And that one of the students actually on our campus, his relatives own Kiss, so they actually would just go with them, and it's like, don't worry about it. So,
Man, geez, you are hooked up, man. You are seriously. I'm gonna start hanging out with you.
story of my life.
Okay, so any other moments you want to talk about, or your favorite moment, like?
So I think bonding with my roommates,
That you already were friends with.
well, the two guys from Seattle.
I'm kidding. I'm giving
And
you a
so
hard
then
time.
our expanded group, we actually, at that time, when we went south, they were able to switch groups and things like that. So our friend Steve was our counselor, and we had one bus. We were going to put all our friends on it, but there were more of us than actually seats in the bus. And these two girls actually had got early before the rest of us, and they got assigned on the bus, and we felt kind of bad after the trip when we got a little older because we were very immature to them because we just didn't talk to them. And so they were basically excommunicated to the front of the bus. We didn't talk to them, they didn't come out with us. And so
Do you know who they are?
one of them is Stephanie. She went to MIT, and she actually was in LA after the trip. And then, I'm so sorry that we did that. It
Oh,
wasn't
Vince, you're
intentional.
such a good guy.
So,
So you apologized.
I did.
Oh, how nice. Have you seen her since?
I have not.
Okay. And the other person, do you know who the other person was?
I don't remember
Okay.
her name off the top of my
Okay.
head.
All right. So was there anything, did you have a particular favorite moment that you want to talk about?
I mean, the whole summer was just one continuous, fun activity that I actually figured out that the human body can only go 10 days with 1.5 hours of sleep and still be able to function. We were lucky in Group B that first thing in the morning, it was class, and then Chinese class, and then travel. The Group C people and our roommates, they travel first thing, so if they didn't get on the bus at 8 a.m., they missed the opportunity. So Group B is still the best.
Okay. Anything in particular? Well, did you get in any trouble? Did you get demerit?
Of course.
You did.
So
What did you get demerit for?
for not going to class,
Oh.
oversleeping, for getting caught going out, and so
They did kick people out with too many demerits. So how many demerits did you get?
So you were allowed, I think the maximum was 10, but you
Oh
could-
my gosh, that's insane.
But you could go, and if you could get them excused, they would erase them. So
Oh my
we
God,
would
10
go
is
down
way
to-
too lenient.
We
No,
would
no,
go
no,
down
no.
to the medical office and say, "Oh, the dude's a baton, and they, oh, okay," and then they would take them off.
That's too late. No, if we're gonna do this again, we're definitely gonna be hard on the demerits. I'm kidding. Okay, so this is my. I love to ask this question. Did you hook up with anyone when you were there? Did you hook up with anyone during the trip? And did you hook up with anyone after the trip?
Yes, to the both questions with a twist, because someone once asked me that as well, right after the trip, and I said no during the trip. I did not, because the person actually was not an official student. It was someone who was a student in the past and a counselor, so I'll keep her anonymous.
Okay.
And she happened to be back there visiting and having fun because her sibling was on the trip.
So that's
So
who
that's
you.
why.
Okay.
So
All right. So you did and you didn't. Okay, gotcha. Did you have a crush on any of the counselors?
I did not.
Boring. I'm kidding. Okay, and what language level did you test into and did you study?
So I believe it was intermediate. In fact, I can check that. Oh, I left it in the car. I actually brought my transcript.
Wow.
So
We can add that. We can edit that in. That's amazing. You still have that?
I do.
I think I heard you could get college credit for it, right?
That is correct.
That's
At Cal,
amazing.
they did not take it, but yes,
That's amazing.
I got a C plus. My first non-A
Is it really your first non-A?
in
In
from
school?
that- yeah.
Wow, Vince! Not only are you hooked
No,
up, but you're
I'm
smart,
I'm kidding. I'm
dude.
kidding.
I
I'm
totally
kidding.
have to stick with you.
I'm kidding.
Okay. Did you perform? Did you perform during the closing ceremony? Oh, what
Yes.
classes did you take? And I mean, the one that you wanted to perform on.
So the first class that I took was flower figurines. Wasn't my first choice. I actually wanted Chinese cooking, and the fact was I like to eat, and why not learn to do it? And plus, it's usually mostly females, so it's a strategic. So food, girls, why not? But a lot of other people must have thought that way, so didn't get it.
So what did you get into?
So flower figurines.
How did
So-
do you perform?
No.
Oh, so you didn't perform during closing
No,
ceremonies?
that's the first class. You have to take a second one. So the second one was stick fighting.
Oh,
So at that time, I guess the airplanes didn't matter because I remember leaving Taiwan and I had that long stick and I brought that as my carry-on. The
Yeah,
luggage
yeah.
way back. So
is there video of that?
there probably is, but
Yeah.
we
Okay.
didn't
Dun
have it. So-
dun
yeah.
dun 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 dun. Okay, and so when it came time to say, did you get emotional during closing ceremonies? I did.
we were obviously sad that it was coming to an end.
Yeah.
Like, it was such
Let
a
me
big-
talk to this a little bit. So, for those who have never been on the program, it was actually it was really sophisticated the way that they set it all up, where you get tested into language classes so that you really, if you're in the intermediate and above, you really are learning Chinese. Then you're in these other classes, there were so many other classes that you took, but then they also took us around to see the top performers, like the military. There was a military performance. I think we saw Chinese dance. The government went all out to not only teach us about the traditions, but they showed us the best performers there in Taiwan. And then at the end, during closing ceremonies, we performed it. And so by the time 6 weeks is over and you've gone through this whole process, it really, for me at least, it was really touching because you really start to feel that, I don't know, how do you explain that? You start to feel that you really understand the culture a little bit better, a lot better. It's like
Absolutely.
it was very well organized. So at some point we need to interview the organizers, the officials too. Okay, so when you did say goodbye, were you emotional?
Yes, but the caveat was we were going to Hong Kong afterwards, and a bunch of us were planning to go, so we.
So the
continued.
party continued. Okay.
Correct.
All right. And lastly, about the Love It program, did you have? I know your brother went. Did you have anybody else in your family that went? Cousins or anybody?
Yes.
How many?
So my cousin Brian, was an actor and producer, he went, and then his twin sisters also went.
Nice. Okay. So let's now talk about the impact of the program. How are we doing on time?
5:30.
Okay, good, perfect. Okay, so talk about how the study tour program impacted you. I gave you this question ahead of time, so because there's so many different ways that people were impacted or not, and so if it's personal, cultural, family, social, career, how would you say that the program impacted you?
So because I have also a unique experience of also being a counselor, so that doubly added to it.
But something led you to be a counselor.
Correct. So when we got back to the States, at Berkeley, a lot of our friends who had planned to go together, our group started to get bigger. And so that last semester I was in college, the party continued, and we're just like, you're 22 years old, the world is your oyster. It's like, that was the best summer I've ever had. Still going on. I don't have a real job yet. I'm going to be going to school, so why not, find another avenue? So one of my roommates from Seattle, Rich, and I actually both applied to be a counselor for 1993, but we didn't say anything, and then they sent us a letter, sorry, you didn't get picked. And we're both like, what? So Rich actually was running the CCNA, what they were calling the de facto embassy at the time, all the programs for them up in the Seattle area. And my mom's side of the family actually is all KMT. My grandfather was a senator and a general. He actually trained at the Japanese Military Academy, like 2 years behind Chiang Kai-shek. So, he's part of that whole group. So then my mom calls him and says, hey, do you know who his grandfather is? And then there's like, oh, we didn't know that.
Sorry. Yes. Of course, your son.
So next year we promise he will have a spot.
Oh, next year.
And so the director from Seattle had written his letter for
recommendation.
So he got
Dude,
one,
you are so hooked up.
So
Okay. Impact. Any other? I mean, obviously, there's a lot. I can imagine you had a lot of great friends, a lot of great memories. Is there anything else, like culturally, language, or anything else?
Having had gone back to Taiwan a few times before the actual being a student, I kind of learned to appreciate a little bit more of the culture. I mean, still 22 years old, American spoiled brat.
Right.
Traveling around with BMW police escorts in the middle. It's like, hey, we're something. But as I got older, I kind of looked back and it's like, we really got to see we're VIPs in the country.
Best of Taiwan.
And we were treated so well, and just reconnecting where my parents grew up and seeing how our relatives that were there, meeting them. And then it was just like my Chinese was getting better. I actually appreciated, because one thing when we were growing up in Pittsburgh, like I didn't want to be Asian.
Yes.
I wanted to be white. So when Thanksgiving would come, they'd say, oh, what did you have? And everyone's like, oh, I had turkey, stuffing. So then I'm like, oh, I had duck. And they're like, duck.
Did you?
And so so then from that day forward, after I told my mom that, every year since, my mom has always made a turkey and stuff, even though my dad and my mom are not huge fans, but they've always made the full spread.
Oh, and you're loved by your parents too. Jeez, Vince. Okay. The other question is like, did the Love Boat experience motivate you? Why were you in Taiwan? I didn't get that part.
So
did the Love Boat have something to do with your being in Taiwan?
It did, in the sense that it made me want to go back there and find a way to spend time. So when I was a medical student during third year, when you start to pick your electives for your fourth year, you can go other places. So Taiwan was a place, hey, I can go spend a month there and hang out and also learn some medicine from a different style. However,
was it at a university?
It would have been, except for something called SARS happened.
Oh my gosh.
So when that happened, they said if you go, you may not be able to come back, and then you can't start internships. So I had to cancel that. But actually going back before then, when I was finished my first year of medical school, I didn't have a summer project yet, and one of my friends who's a couple of years older than me and who was an ophthalmologist at Jules Stein at UCLA had said, hey, are you interested in ophthalmology? I'm like, yeah, laser vision correction just came out. I'd be interested to see what that's all about. He's like, there's one guy who was the first person to come to the United States to learn that and went back to Taiwan, and he's teaching it there. So if you're interested in learning about that, I can put you in touch with them. So we connected, and so I did a summer externship with them at Changgen Yiyuan.
Oh.
So I would see patients one day a week in the main office in Taipei, but his clinic and operating would be in Linkou. So I would have to take the bus and go out to the suburbs to do that every day.
But how was your Chinese? Was your Chinese up to par in order to see patients?
So well enough to understand and communicate with the residents and the professor, but their textbooks and everything is in English.
Mm-hmm.
So the first surgery that I ever saw was actually a cataract surgery, and we do it with just topical, where you don't have needles and stuff like that around the eyes, but there they do it more old school, where they use a long needle to paralyze the muscles around the eyes. So the residents thought it was funny that the undersecretary, of one of the divisions in Taiwan actually was one of the patients. and they were gonna do the block, and the needle was like this, and then they showed it up in the light. You see the reflection. They're like, "You want to do it?" Thinking I'm not gonna do it. I'm like, "Sure." And they're like, "Oh no. Even we're not gonna do that. The attending, Zoran he's gonna actually do that." It's like, oh, okay.
You were ready. You were gung ho.
Yeah, I was like, if you're gonna offer it to me, why not? So.
I didn't. If I knew that at the time, I don't remember. I just remember you as a housemate. So, I have to say this, right? Because you said nothing's off limits, right, Vince?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I just met Vince when he took a room in my apartment, the apartment that I was renting. But very quickly, I realized that Vince spent more time on his hair than I did. He would spend like 30 minutes in front of the mirror doing all this kind of stuff, and then he told me this whole story about how he had just come from Shanghai, China, somewhere, and they had rolling blackouts, and it was always like getting in the way of him trying to look good before he left for the day. And it's all in my journals. I have the full story of Vince's hair situation in my journals. So if anybody's interested, let me know and I can share that with you. Do you deny it? Confirm or deny?
So one of my nicknames was the Hair Master.
Ah, well, okay. Now I completely understand. All right. So I guess the last thing I want to ask you about is how did you hear about the Love Boat Alumni Initiative? Do you remember?
You sent me a message.
I like texted you and I'm like, do this, come. Was it the reunion? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was the reunion.
Okay, and so that was the first time?
Yeah.
And then you joined our Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
Are you subscribed to our mailing list?
Mm-hmm.
Good. So Vince is actually one of our,